So we know at this point that Alabama under Nick Saban has just been stacking talent. I mean, ever since Saban got there, it seemed like it's number one class after number one class. But today, we're going to focus in on one position group in particular because Alabama may just field the deepest edge rush group in the nation, and we need to break it down. But before we do, as always, you all know the drill. I want to hear from you. Hop down to the comments, Y for yes, N for no. Do you believe Alabama has the deepest edge rush group in the nation? And let me know what you're thinking. If you are new to the channel, be sure to subscribe, hit that bell notification. I do constant college football content. You don't want to miss any of it. And if you enjoy this content, like and comment down below. Those interactions are massive to content creators such as myself in both getting picked up and maintained by the YouTube algorithm. But with all that being said, let's talk about it because this is a room that includes both firepower and star power. And when we're talking about the edge rush position at the Crimson Tide, we'd be remiss if we started anywhere else but Will Anderson. Going into his junior season, he saw a sophomore campaign in which he had 17.5 sacks. That followed up an incredibly impressive true freshman campaign in which Will Anderson had 7+ sacks in a year with a chaotic offseason and a chaotic year in general due to COVID-19. So what he's been able to accomplish in such a small amount of time is really mind-blowing. This is an incredibly talented individual and may just be the best football player in college football. He's certainly bound to be a top 10 draft pick already, and there was a lot of talk that if he was coming out this year, he'd be pushing for that number one spot. That's how good Will Anderson is. And the scariest thing about it, in my opinion, I don't think he's done yet. I think he's only going to keep improving because every game he was improving last season. His ceiling is still a ways away, and I think he is going to do really special things. But it's not even just about Will Anderson. I mean, anytime you can headline a room with Will Anderson, you absolutely talk about that first. But it's about everything else that the room has to offer. Whether we're talking Will Anderson or his running mate, Dallas Turner, who is a true freshman who only got 8.5 sacks. And if we're talking about the past 2 years, only looking at two names, Will Anderson in his freshman and sophomore campaign and Dallas Turner in his true freshman campaign, those two individuals over those 2 years have accounted for 33 sacks. That's mind-blowing that we're talking about two people who came into the college game, lit it up as freshmen. Will Anderson then proceeded to do 17.5 sacks as a sophomore, and it makes you wonder, what's the future hold for Dallas Turner? And especially you have to wonder what the future holds for Dallas Turner when Will Anderson is on the other side. So it's not like an offense can pull all their attention to Dallas Turner. They're going to be worried about Will Anderson, and if Alabama can replicate the 9 sacks from the interior that Fedarian Mathis gave them, now all of a sudden you can't double anything, and it's wide open season, and Dallas Turner is going to capitalize off of that. But whenever we're talking about Anderson and Dallas Turner, we're talking about the numbers they've put up. But where did they rank coming out of high school? Because if we take a step back and look at this room holistically, that's where this gets incredibly impressive. Will Anderson came to Alabama as a 5-star, number 17 in the nation, and the number 1 edge rusher in his class. Dallas Turner came to Alabama as another 5-star, top 10 player in all of high school football, coming in at number 9, and once again the number 1 edge rusher in his class. But if we take a look at Will Anderson's class, this is where things get ultra impressive. Because aside from getting Will Anderson, the Crimson Tide also signed Chris Braswell, a 5-star player who came in as a top 20 recruit in all of high school football, coming in at number 19. In the same class, Alabama signed Will Anderson. Will Anderson was the number 1 edge rusher in the nation. Chris Braswell was the number 2 edge rusher in the nation. And even on top of that, Drew Sanders was a part of that class in which he was classified as an athlete, but ended up coming into the Crimson Tide as an edge rusher, giving them 3 5-stars in that one class. Now, since Drew Sanders has transferred, and we wish him all the best and much success in his campaign with the Arkansas Razorbacks, but it underscores the point. Bama has been recruiting this position very, very well. But it's not just those 3 names that are impressive in Will Anderson, Chris Braswell, and Dallas Turner. You're also talking about Keanu Cott, an individual who came as a 4-star recruit, top 60 player in the nation, coming in at number 59, and the number 3 edge rusher in the nation. You have Quandarius Robinson, number number 65 player in the nation coming out of high school, high-ranking 4-star, and the number 6 edge rusher in the nation. And then we look at what Alabama just signed in this past recruiting class. Jeremiah Alexander and Jihad Campbell, both of which come in at 5-star prospects, Jihad Campbell being the number 2 edge rusher in the nation and Jeremiah Alexander being the number 1 edge rusher in the nation. So what this means is on the Crimson Tide's roster currently, they have 3 individuals who at one point ranked as the number 1 edge rusher in their respective class. Not only that, they have 2 individuals that ranked as the 2nd best edge rusher in their respective class, while Alabama signed the best edge rusher in that class. This past year was the 2nd time in the past few years where Alabama has signed the best edge rusher and then the 2nd best edge rusher. This year, Jeremiah Alexander and Jihad Campbell. Previously, it was Will Anderson, Chris Braswell, and then ultimately Drew Sanders, the top 3 edge rushers in that class. Even though Drew Sanders was classified as an athlete, when you look at his placement, he probably would have came in at the number 3 edge rusher in that class. So this is a lot of names you have to account for, and we talked about what Will Anderson was able to do as far as statistics on the football field. We talked about what Dallas Turner was able to do as far as statistics on the football field, but now we need to remember, in the event that those guys get off the field and the other guys come in to give them relief, I don't think there's going to be a ton of drop-off. Braswell last A-Day showed elite explosiveness, and with another year in the program, with another year in the strength and conditioning, I think he's an individual that when he gets an opportunity, you're going to give him an inch. He's going to take 4 miles worth of production. We saw that glimpse during A-Day when he rocketed off the edge and got to Bryce Young. That's the type of explosiveness I think he's going to put on full display this year when given the opportunity. So if you're an opposing offense and you're looking at the situation and you see Will Anderson go off the field, you might still be looking there and you see Dallas Turner. You know you have to account for him, but in comes Chris Braswell, a former 5-star number 2 edge rusher in the nation that the limited film you have seen of him, such as A-Day, he was exploding off of an edge. And then even past that, whether it's Keanu Cott, Quandarius Robinson, Jeremiah Alexander, or Jihad Campbell, you're talking about individuals that all rank within the top 70 players in all of high school football. Each individual on this list coming in is a top 10 player in their position. That is insane depth. And it's not just star power, because I gave you where these guys were ranked, how many stars they had. It's also firepower in the production Will Anderson has given, in the production Dallas Turner has given, and in the production I think that the rest of the room is going to give. But it's the ability to be able to have Will Anderson exit the game or Dallas Turner exit the game, and an offense doesn't have the ability to feel any sort of complacency because they're looking at a situation where they have all these dudes coming in that are bona fide ballers at this edge rusher position. And now we need to talk about the 2 new additions in Jeremiah Alexander and Jihad Campbell. Jeremiah Alexander was one of the most ferocious players in all of high school football, and it was like that way the second he stepped on a high school football field. This kid was destined for big things. He's an individual that I think if he sees an opportunity, he is going to make the most of it and impress. I think he's going to be turning heads really soon. And Jihad Campbell is someone who everybody you hear talk about him refers to him as a Swiss Army knife. You already had a room with this much talent in it, and you added an individual like Jihad Campbell with the versatility in his athleticism. That's terrifying. So at the end of the day, yeah, I think Alabama has the deepest edge rusher room in the nation, and I don't know who comes close, whether in terms of production or in star power. But if you have a team, please, by all means, drop it down in the comments and we can talk about it. That's it. See ya.